Hello and welcome to another AGD tutorial, and in this episode we are going to be looking at how you can export your block data into a package such as ZX Paintbrush, edit it and then import it back in. So let's begin by first of all looking at the blocks that we're going to use. This is from my Attic Attack demo video that I've been working on. Some of you will have seen that, I'm sure. And as you can see here, I've got a whole set of blocks mainly used for the drawing of the doors, and there are in fact in total here 41 blocks. So let's now take a look at the screen. I've set up a blank screen here, which you will now see. So I've created a screen which is separate from the game. You'll need to do the same in your game. So in my case it's screen 4. Make a note of the one that you're using. And I'm also going to add a control sprite here. So on screen 4 I've got a control sprite. It's sprite type 8 in this case. So I'm going to run a script on type 8 to display all the blocks. The next thing that I've got is in the game initialization code. So if we take a look here, you can see I've set the screen to be 4. I've set the color to be 7, which is black paper and white ink. Clear the screen and then exit so that the code, the real game code, isn't going to run. The next thing I do then is go down to sprite type 8, which is where I've got the script to display the blocks. I'm using 3 variables here, A, B and C. A controls the column, B controls the row, C controls the block. As you can see here, I've got 41 on a repeat, so basically I'm going to show 41 blocks because that's how many that I've got. So it steps through column by column and displays the block by block, and when it gets to 32, which is obviously the end of the screen, 31 is the end of the screen, but add 1 to A, so therefore if it's 32 you've gone too far, reset back to 0 and repeat. Then I've got an exit command because everything below that is actually part of the real game. I don't want that to run right now, but it means that if I do that, when I restore the game back as it should be, I can just delete that code and it will run. And as you can see here, I've got a nice display of all the blocks one by one in 2 rows. However, because I know that when I'm exporting into a another package such as ZX Paintbrush, I don't really want all those extra blocks there because it's going to have to be exported as a rectangle, and that's going to mean that I'm going to have to import a whole load of blank blocks. Of course, if you're planning to add blocks, then of course that will be fine. You can create some new blocks and import them. But let's look at how we can actually change the aspect ratio of the block display to one that suits your convenience. Let's take a look then. So rather than 32, let's experiment a little bit, and first off I think we'll try 12. Let's take a look at that, and now it's displaying in a block of 12. That's okay, it's not too bad. I've still got quite a lot of extra blocks that I don't need, so I think because I know that 42 is a good multiple, that would be 6 by 7. So I'll go back in again, and this time I'll change it to 6, and that should give me 6 columns and 7 rows. So let's try that now. As I said, it really depends on the number of blocks you've got, but yeah, I'm happy with that now because I know that there's a couple of blocks at the end here which are actually blank blocks, so I can change and edit these. And I still have the option, if I do want to add more, I could always just create another row or even 2 rows below that. So now I go to save it off as a simple screenshot and save it off there, and it's now ready to be imported into ZX Paintbrush. So let's open up ZX Paintbrush. Here it is. We've start out of course with a completely blank screen, and what all I need to do here basically is to go to the option to open the file, and I'll now load in the file that I have just created in AGD. So here we can see Attic block screen loaded in, and there it is, and it's ready to be edited. So let's take a look here. We'll turn off the attributes. That's always good to be able to see the screen, see the layout of the blocks. And the first thing I'm going to do then is I'm just going to set this up here and change the color of the blocks. Now, just for demonstration purposes, I'm also going to add a couple of extra block graphics. I'm just going to change a couple of things in here very quickly. The reason I'm doing this purely and simply is just to show you that it actually works and it's importing the data correctly. So I'll just make a couple of little faces here and set those up so that we can check when they're re-imported that they're working properly. Okay, it's worth noting at this point that I've got 42 blocks here. It's going to be saved as a square rectangle, so I'm going to have to add an extra block to the block set in AGD for it to import correctly. So we'll do that once we get around to it. Now, in order to export this data, it's really quite straightforward. All we have to do is go to the image grab, the selection rectangle here, and I'll just set this up to oh, not quite, we need it exactly pixel perfect, so there it is. Great, so that's highlighted, you can see it here, and all I need to do now then is export this set of 6x7, which is 42, as I already mentioned. I'll go to the file menu here and choose export selection. So here we've got export selection, not the whole screen, just the selection. I need to choose the type, and in this case we're going to choose binary. And as you can see, I've already saved a binary previously when I was doing the test, and so I'll overwrite that one. And now here are the settings that we need. First of all, we need to include attributes in the output. First all pixels followed by all attributes. That's the way that AGD stores the data, so that's why that's important. Block based output, that's also important. And block pixel width 8x8. So this is going to save it in a format which is practically identical to the one that AGD uses. The only thing that it won't import, of course, is the type data. So you may have to make some changes there if you need to change the types of the blocks as you go along, because obviously that can't be stored in ZX Paintbrush. Okay, let's go back to Fuse. Now we need to know where the block data is stored. If you've watched the sprite demo that I've done, you'll know that you can look in memory and find the location in memory where the sprites are stored. And in fact, right next to that data is the information about where the blocks are stored. So you may remember that the sprites are stored at 7D3D. And if I look into memory here at 7D3D, you can see there, that's where my sprites are stored. And actually, right next to it, here, A4 and 9F, here, so 7D3D and 7D40, they tell me where the block pixel data is stored. That's where the block data starts. So all we need to do then is convert this number into decimal, and then we can load the data in. So we'll go to the hexadecimal to decimal converter. You can find this online. Just type hex to decimal into Google. Remember, we have to flip the numbers, so rather than A4 9F, we type 9F A4, and we get the number here, 40868, and that's our address. That's basically where the block data is stored. Now remember, if you're importing more blocks than you previously had, you must make sure that you have the exact number of blocks that you're importing set up in AGD. So you must have 42 blocks, which I've already done. So I've added one block. So I now go to import the data here, and I choose Attic Blocks bin, paste the address into here, and don't need to change the length, and basically I just press load. Okay, and if that's worked, if all has gone well, then we'll see here block 41, yes, blank, and there we go, there's our faces, and there's the door graphic, and it's been changed to green. So obviously any changes that you've made should be imported. And again, just to stress, very important, you must match the number of blocks in AGD to the number that you've exported. So if you've created a rectangle of say 10 by 10, that means you need 100 blocks, 0 to 99. If you don't do that, you'll just cause a lot of corruption and it won't work properly. Okay, so in the next episode we'll look at how we can import groups of blocks into the block set itself. For example, if you want to import some pictures, do some editing. At the moment all we can do is import and export an entire set. So we'll look at that next time. In the meantime, keep enjoying AGD, keep enjoying the Spectrum as always, and I will see you in the next video. Take good care, thanks a lot, and goodbye.